think that for marketing and advertising, whatever profession you claim to be in, to be what you need to be, you've got to be bolder than you are today. But I think we need to be really clear on what boldness means. I think boldness is a lot more than aggressive assertions. I think it's much more than sort of being a smart ass or attacking from the sidelines, and it's much more than sort of anonymous pot shots. I don't think bold is big. I don't think it's big budgets. I don't think it's big ideas. I don't think it's big thinking. In fact, I think the vast majority of our really bold work will be very different than that. I think that it's worth asking why we need to be bold for a second here, and why we must be bold in sort of our engagement with our business partners, with our brands, our creative, in the way we support. Many of you are leaders. You've got to be bold now in the way you support your teams. And more than anything, I think we need to be bold in the conversations we have. And I think the reason is really simple. If you're not bold, you're going to be irrelevant. I think that being unbold is a really comfortable place to be. And so it's hard to be bold. But there are some forces out there that are going to force you to be there. The first force is that this new technology that's coming at us, you've heard the guys talk about it. I think the new technology, the new social sphere, I've been in the middle of it for over a decade now, is only part of the problem. The real problem is that 90% of your spend, 90% of your actions, 90% of your activities are exactly what you did last year. And so if you're going to pretty much do what you did last year, this year, how are you going to fit in social, mobile, virtual, big data, youth fragmentation, all the other stuff going on out there? So we're going to need to be incredibly bold and challenging how we resource and fund, or the business will suffer. And there's no question, I think, our businesses are going to have to fund incrementally, but we're going to have to be as bold in reallocating our spend. It took us about 12 years to clue on to search being a big thing, and for it to finally reach about 10 or 12% of our spend. Do you think you've got that long to do mobile? And I just don't think there's enough room to shoehorn what you're hearing about from these guys into last year's budget, hoping with that remaining 10% you'll get it done. If you look at what's going on in media, new media is taking the mass out and putting the micro in. I think the first wave of the internet was characterized by a digital divide between the digital haves and the digital have-nots. This next wave will be, and you just heard it there articulated beautifully, will be divided by the worthy and the unworthy. Those of you that choose to click The Economist will be worthy of good news. Those of you that choose to click Billboard, not so much. And so that's going to require a whole new generation of creative and content that enables you to identify who you are and what you're about. I think we're seeing new human behaviours like we've never seen before. For those of you that have been a student of media over the years, you know this is not new news. We kind of act surprised that everyone consumes on social now and not so much newspapers are sold. Well, people didn't hang out in their living rooms very much until the radio came along. They were out in the evenings, outside, outdoors, doing things. Suddenly the radio made us sit in a living room and listen to something. So these kinds of trends have been going on for decades, but now we're in the middle of something quite profound. We're driven more by what's in our palm or lap than what's 13, 14 feet away from us on a screen. And assuming that TV's kind of going to work as it always has, while we're always engaged in our smartphones, that's going to be a bit of a stretch for us as marketers. And assuming that print is going to work when we actually consume our news off a tablet or a smartphone in small bites, that's even a bigger stretch. So at the same time, though, the customers changed, and these connected customers are going to challenge our brands. They're going to challenge our playbook, our rule book inside the business. And boldness is going to be about empowering our employees to serve customers as individuals, and really empowering you all as employees to challenge the rule book, to tell us as leaders what works and doesn't work, and let us get it fixed for you. But these customers are also the people communicating inside the new networks. They're communicating inside Facebook. They're communicating inside Twitter. Any of you that know my blog know my continual rants about airlines and people like that. There are a lot of airline brands I love out there, but their rule books aren't going to survive in the new networked world because the connected customer's in control. But I do think that the networks that have meaning, the networks that we want to belong to, are going to need to favour transparency over opacity. We need to know who we're talking with. We won't speak at, but rather speak with. The conversation will be more important than the primacy of winning the debate or the smart-ass comment we've cooked up. We'll actually seek to engage with each other online rather than transmit. And I think it's this last one that's really, really important. The idea that the new networks will be about transparency rather than opacity. And a great CEO I worked for once said to me, anonymity breeds a responsibility. And I think too many of the networks that serve our profession have become sort of irresponsible feeders of gossip, misrepresentation, drivel and poison. There's little attribution of creative copyright and ideas anymore. They don't actually make us better, not always anyway. When we talk about something without dialogue with that person or knowing the person we're talking to, it's more about the other person than about what we need to resolve. And I think as I go out and I talk particularly to young marketers in schools, they watch the conversations we have and live in fear of the jobs they're about to take. And I think bold conversations are what are needed. And if you can only participate in the conversation as long as you identify as being there, the conversation will get richer. So there's nothing to hide or fear from being open. There's an old saying, sunlight's the best disinfectant. And I think the bold will revel in that sunlight. You heard a really profound thing in the last two talks. I'd really encourage you all to go out and leave the building, go out and buy after you leave today. Jaron Lanier's latest book, Who Owns the Future? It's one of the most profound pieces of writing on where we're at in an ad-subsidized world in which we somewhat unshamelessly and happily give away all our data in exchange for free technology platforms. This is an age which has favoured expression over creation. And I encourage any of you that think you create when you quickly apply a filter on an Instagram photo and post it to the net to go spend an hour taking some real photos and play with Adobe Photoshop and create something special. It's easy to express, it's much harder to make. And I do worry that in this new world that a new class of makers are going to emerge and we're going to be ill-suited to take advantage of them. We're right on the edge of a digital printing revolution that will change how we buy, how we procure, how we live forever. We're on the edge of a mass publishing revolution that we've only just seen the tip of, where the value creation will shift from eyeballs and readers to those with great content and communities. And this new age of creating is going to be favouring those bold enough to produce in new ways and to participate and contribute in new ways. And the bold will support them with new sources of marketing, venture capital. There's one truth, though, I think about the bold. And I think that just as they are externally, these makers, the bold, will come from the edge internally and the edge inside our agencies. I think the role of the CMO in generating great thinking is about as vastly overstated as that of the Chief Creative Officer. Real innovation actually happens at the edge in our organisations amongst those who have just joined us often. And I think that the real role of the leaders in the room today is to go out and figure out how you capture that innovation at the edge. I can remember the excitement in Andy's eyes as he read the Can poem to me for the first time. And it takes a lot of guts to walk into a CMO's office and suggest that a poem be the starting point of a campaign. Or when Emma and Simon, who came to me with a great idea to amplify our Australian of the Year sponsorship, put an idea on the paper that in principle looked great, especially when you've got good budgets, but the boldness with which they undertook that idea was really significant. Like all great makers, these people made at the edge. No big budget, no clicking and clacking around, no big fancy creative ta-da moments. And I just want to show you a little bit of what happens when they do that. This is one of those videos. This is an incredibly bold person who's taken a stand on a cause that matters.
We pipe our precious water to keep it by our side, but in its bland and grand impoundments, young Aussie kids have died. They sparkle round our country like bright-eyed emerald jewels, but tiny crosses track the losses by the lanes of backyard pools. Just focus for a moment on whom that lost child could have been. Bradman, Fred Hollows, a country western queen. The mother of a tribe of kids with Thorpe in their eyes. The father of a daughter who'd have claimed the Nobel Prize. The water has got to be a fun place for kids. It's got to be a place that they come and enjoy, so that it's healthy, it has good memories for them for life. So that's the key, getting the kids to love it. And I believe that every child deserves to learn to swim in a fun, loving, caring way. With this influx of pools and spas around Australia, there came a major problem for us. And I saw I had to do something about it. So when I started the Kids Alive program nationally in the year 2000, 63 children under the age of 5 drowned that year. This year, 21, the lowest on record. And people are saying, fantastic. I'm saying, it's a mini busload of little kids. But that's what's happening. So the goal is preschool drownings 0. That's the goal. People say you'd never do it because each year there's more pools, more spas. Mate, I know it's possible. For me, it's not Kids Alive learn to swim, it's Kids Alive do the 5. Fence the pool, shut the gate. Teach your kids to swim, it's great. Supervise, watch your mate, and learn how to resuscitate. So keep kids alive, do the 5. If I could live to the day that there were 0 preschool drownings in this country, I would feel very satisfied. There's 21 last year, I want to see 0. And it can happen. You know, it can happen, I know it can happen.
So pretty bold guy, and that quote sticks with you forever. You know, people say, "Oh, that's pretty good, 65 to 21." It's a small minibus full of kids every year dying in our pools. But the really interesting thing about that for me, aside from that, it's a remarkable cause, a remarkable effort by one of our Australian of the Year nominees, is these 5 little videos we made cost less than 50k to make. Run for hours on national television, got turned into a TV show by Channel 7. No cost to us, been seen by hundreds of thousands, and they actually do good. And I think bold brands in the future won't just seek to be good brands in their own right, they'll actually seek to do good. And they'll understand that bold thinking doesn't actually require a big budget. It all starts with a conversation. Without the networks we depend on being open, being positive and supportive, we run the risk they close, that young marketers don't come work in our profession and the makers stop making. And I think that would be the end of marketing as we hope it to be. So I'd really encourage you all, go ahead, be bold, start a conversation, share the idea, shift the spend, most of all, put your name on it. Thanks.